So I understand that violence in schools is on the rise.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
It's in the media more and more now about people are looking at freedom of information requests about injuries and claims and things like that. So I think there's more people reporting things and there's more statistics for us to look at. But if you look back to where Philip Lawrence was stabbed to death in 1995 outside St George's High School in London, and then you look from then, we've had Vincent Uzoma, who was stabbed whilst he was taking a mobile phone off a child at Dixon's King's Academy, and then you look at Anne Maguire, who was stabbed to death at in a classroom in Leeds. So we've consistently had incidents happening. Yes, we've had some really serious incidents. So is it on the increase? I'm not sure, but I know that claims are, for 100% sure, that claims are on the increase. Partly because the training that's out there isn't fit for purpose, or staff haven't had any training and they're then looking to make claims. And we're not just talking about bruises, marks, broken bones here. We're talking about stress, we're talking about depression and people taking time off after incidents have happened.
And I mean, what happens when there is violence in schools? So when staff or a pupil gets hurt,
Yeah.
when they're trying to intervene?
Yeah, what happens? So from a criminal point of view, it would have to prove that reasonable force hadn't been used. So it wasn't necessary for the teacher to intervene in the first place, or the force they've used was disproportionate. So they've intervened and they've caused more harm to the child than they needed to. So what happens? Well, first of all, the question would be asked, has the staff had training? Because if they've had no training, how can you expect them to know what to do? That's not fair, and it's not consistent with health and safety law. If staff have had training, that's when people like me will be involved and we'll say, okay, was the training fit for purpose? So first of all, is there a solid audit trail? When did they have this training? There's no point in them having it 3-4 years ago, because how would you remember it? It's got to be current and it's got to be consistent. It's also got to be strategies that actually work. If you're given strategies that work in a classroom for you working with someone who's the same height as you, and then you try that on a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, how is that going to work? It can't possibly work. And there's certain techniques we've been told we should never use, which are out there still being used. We know there's still a lot of floor restraints and prone restraints being used. I'm still seeing these basket holds where arms across the diaphragm and people are holding them, so children will struggle and they'll injure themselves. From a claims point of view, and from somebody being held responsible, the head teacher of the school has complete autonomy to choose a training provider. Now, I hear a lot of local authorities saying, this is our preferred training provider, why don't you use them? The moment they start saying to people, this is who you have to use, well, does every local authority use the same training provider? The answer is no. So just because it's recommended doesn't guarantee any badge of quality, really, does it? So head teachers have always had autonomy to choose. Check the government guidance. It says that they must use their expert judgment to choose who a training provider is. Because if a school doesn't back a member of staff and the training provider doesn't, which we've seen recently, then a member of staff can find themselves in a court. Maybe not a criminal court, but maybe a civil court, which is still scary, and you've still got to fill out the paperwork and possibly, career damage, and you've got to pay for the legal support and all those sleepless nights that you go through. And recently we had a TA who found himself in that position, and he said, I was just doing as I was told. I did what the training provider told me to. I did what my school told me to. The prosecution described that as the Nuremberg defence. So what they basically compared it to was a Nazi war criminal. You should know this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it, and it's your fault for taking this action that you did. So I wouldn't just say to schools to observe what's going on and to educate themselves on rights and responsibilities and what you can and can't do. I'd say all teachers should make themselves individuals. Yeah, look, if you're being told to do something, check it out, look into it. Because if I was doing a first aid course and somebody said, oh, if you're having a heart attack, put a plaster on it, I'd question the trainer and I'd look up to check if that was correct. Yeah, I'm seeing people go on these positive handling courses and saying, hey, it was rubbish, but at least it's out the way for another year. If it's rubbish, if it's not working, if it's not fit for purpose, then look, there's training companies out there. Due diligence also says you should take several training providers, check they're qualified and compare them. I'm still seeing a variety of companies out there just marketing their positive handling and care and control level 2 and level 3 when it's not mapped to any vocational qualification at all. There's no real medical risk assessments in place. And things like the manual handling aspects of it, where they're saying, oh, you can restrain this 15-year-old on your own, it's just not consistent, just wouldn't work.
So what would your advice be then to somebody who did want to cover their own back
Yeah.
and they've been advised you need training? What should they do? What should they look for?
Nobody wants to upset the apple cart. It's very difficult to get somebody to believe in something that their pay scale depends on them not believing in. Upton Sinclair said that. So I'm not saying that you should fight your organisations and refuse to do training, but if you've been given a certain training to follow and you feel it's dubious, then speak to the training provider and say, can you tell me about your qualifications? Can you show me the manual with the techniques in? Do you have videos of the techniques? So you can look at them and do their own homework. So what I'm saying is do their own due diligence, and organisations should be saying to the staff, how did you find that course? Was it helpful? The training we've given you, is it sufficient? Because if there's a change in work activities, and that could be a new child at a school or a new level of item of equipment, or the risk changes, then a risk assessment has to be done. And that risk assessment might say, yeah, we need further training. The basic stuff was great, but we now need to look at getting some proper training in.